Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to use pricking iron and what are the common mistakes and what are the things that people are missing when they're using pricking iron. First of all, I use the terminology pricking iron because I think that's the most common people using it to describe the tools for their stitching. There are different names for this type of tools. So if we say about the naming of the tool, basically I don't really care much about the naming of these stitching tools because the correct terminology doesn't really mean anything at this point because the common modern methodology of manufacturing tools and how they're using it all depends on people. So I'm aware of that. Stitching irons, they penetrate all the way through. Pricking irons, you don't penetrate, you just leave the marks. I get it, but some tools are not designed for one tool and not designed for this type of tool, and that's kind of silly because it all depends on the person who uses it. So even though stitching iron I will use as a pricking iron, even though it's pricking iron I will use as a stitching iron. So do not confuse with the stitching iron and pricking iron. Just it does not matter at this point. Okay, so in terms of this stitching tool, it really does not matter because even in like Japan, these are called meuchi. Yeah, it's not a pricking iron. It's Japanese terminology. They use it called meuchi. These diamond shaped ones are called hishimeuchi, and these European ones are called Europa meuchi. Yeah, and in South Korea they call it mokta. So these are 일본식 mokta, and these are 유럽식 mokta. So it's terminology doesn't really mean anything to me at this point. So that thing I want to clear out. And yes, let's talk about this. What are the European stitchings are all about first. So previously I showed you a photo of the Berger Blanchard pricking iron, and one thing that you should notice is that how thick these are. I don't have it. I don't have any Berger Blanchard, so I can't show you. But if we just take a look at teeth, these are very traditional manufacture process. So it's forged and shaped into certain form and then it's ground. And then they need to hand file all of these teeth. So what happens is it has a very thick teeth towards to the body of the tool. So at the very tip it's very thin, very one line. It leaves very one line hole. But then towards to the body of the tool, it creates a very large diamond like this. And if you use this Berger Blanchard tool to penetrate leather all the way through, you will end up with a large hole because your leather will end up to here. Yeah. So if you have a Berger Blanchard tool, the best way is just to tap with a hammer, and then just leave the very thin line of marks, and then you use a oil, which is finely ground, very finely ground oil. Yeah. Use the oil to penetrate the leather, finish the leather all the way to the other side. And this thing is quite important because it all depends on what kind of stitching clamp you're using as well. It's connected. So I believe a lot of guys are using this type of stitching pony, right? Just to see on the both sides. But what the thing about this Berger Blanchard pricking iron is that you leave the mark and then you penetrate a hole one by one using this type of clamp, the one with the French clamp, if you know what I mean. This type of clamp, which I'm going to do the review video on how to do the stitching anyways. So there are some good aspects if you do this type of leave the mark and then penetrate hole one by one. It's not about just the tradition. You can adjust your stitching very well with this type of technique. So there are some good sides to it. So if you are doing something different, maybe it's good for you. But that's the whole topic, another topic. Okay. So let's stick to the how to use your pricking iron this time. Yeah. So, but here's the thing about modern manufactured pricking iron like these. So these are all wire cut pricking iron, which means electrical wire cuts the metal. I will just put it this way. It's EDM method. You can find it on Wikipedia. So electrical wire cuts the metal, like it disassembles metal. So it's not about melting, I should say. It's discharging technology. So it's very, very precise. It's even much more precise than the laser cutting technique. So it's really, really precise. And what it can do is it can cut even very small, thin material very well as well. So these are high precision tools, yeah. And also the KS blade also makes it in different methods, but also creates very thin. The point is, it doesn't get too fat even though it penetrates all the way through. So when your leather penetrates all the way through, this side, this portion will not as thick as this portion, and this one as well. So it's possible to penetrate leather all the way through with this type of European pricking iron, the modern ones, right? So what happens is, if you penetrate the leather all the way through, this is about 2 mil thick, it creates a very large hole like this. Yeah, it creates very large hole. It creates very large hole like this, so it's kind of a big slot. But if you penetrate leather all the way through with this type of a modern manufacturer tool, you can see the light behind it. Yeah? It's a hole, but also it's just a very small cuts. It's more like cuts, yeah, like this. So it's a hole. You can see the light, right? But the difference between the size of the hole is huge. And the key is, you need to have a small hole to have a really good stitching. Yeah, I already made a video about how to have a good stitching. So if you haven't watched it, I'll put the link over here. You can watch it. You need to prepare your tools better, and you need to sharpen your awl, and then you use awl. So make a small hole, and then choose the right size of the thread, and then you can stitch it, and it looks great. So in the next video, I will tell you about the thread size and the pricking iron size combination as well. So if you want to watch the video about that, subscribe and like this video. Okay. So the pricking iron for this Japanese style, you can penetrate all the way through. It's designed for that. But if you are having the very basic pricking iron like this one, do not penetrate all the way through. Just penetrate half of it and then finish with the awl. Yeah, but if you have a really good pricking iron like this Crimson Hide ones, really refined teeth, very smooth and thin teeth Japanese pricking iron, you can penetrate all the way through with the confidence. It will still leave you very small holes, and it will give you really nice stitching. Yeah. So on the next part, I will show you what's important when you use the pricking iron. So the most important, and also a lot of people are neglecting, is the solid work surface. So I made a mistake when I first began also. It's really, I thought really not a big deal in the first place also. So I didn't really pay attention to it, but it made a huge difference when I changed it. So you need to have very solid, heavy, and very thick workspace. And on top of that, you need some kind of cutting board or punching board, whatever, which I'm going to talk about soon. So if you have very thin wooden desk, you need to have some type of very reinforced material. You can purchase very big, heavy-duty granite plate, maybe like very thick one, almost half. About inch or 2 inches also good. So around 20 millimeters to 50 millimeter thick granite plate, that will be also good. Or if you have a very solid wooden desk like that is really thick already, like 2 inch or 50 millimeter wooden desk already, then that's enough. Yeah. So you need to have a very solid surface. This one is from IKEA. And I paid only around 20 euros for this. So it's very flimsy. It's almost made of paper except for the legs. So this thing is very flimsy. It moves around very much, and it's hollow inside. So in this desk, it's a honeycomb structure which has this cardboard layer inside to just make it rigid. But then it doesn't do any of the energy conservation. So what I mean is, when you drive your tool into leather, when you hit it with a hammer, you need to have a very solid surface, very stable surface, so that the energy goes right back to this leather. So the energy concentrate on these tools, so that it penetrates leather. If you don't do that, when you hit it, your whole desk, you can't see it, but your whole desk vibrates, and energy just goes away with that vibration. So you can't really penetrate the leather very well, because just your energy just goes away. So you need to hit harder, and if you hit harder, of course, you will lose control of the tool, and it's really difficult to make a pretty hole. Funny, isn't it? So the desk is what's really important to begin with. Yeah. So let's talk about if you don't have such a setup. I will tell you about some of the tricks that you could do. So let's consider this desk is not a good one. Yeah, just a flimsy desk. Yeah. The best way you can improve on this is you can get a really nice, or not even really nice, piece of granite. Synthetic, natural, doesn't matter. Yeah. Get a piece of granite from your hardware store or local kitchen maker or whatever. Very hard surface. This one is about 15 millimeter thick. You can get 20 millimeter also as well, but don't go below 10 millimeter. Yeah, and do not use glass for this job. Glass shatters very easily, so glass I don't recommend it. So on a flimsy desk, on a very hard granite plate, and then get a small cutting board, and then on your ladder, and then you hammer it. This is the best setup you could come up with. Yeah, this is the improvement that you can think of. If you really want to improve a lot on the flimsy setup, on a very flimsy desk, very thick cutting board, granite, and the proper cutting board. This is from Oka factory. This is made in Japan. I will do the review on this punching board, and then your leather, and then your pricking iron tool, and then hammer it. So see how many layers there are: flimsy desk, cutting board, granite, proper punching board, leather, and the tool. So as you have a many layer underneath your leather, you have a much better control on your leather piece. Try it, really difference. It really makes really good difference. So now here's the thing. So if you don't have any of these, not even cutting board, you can just go about it with this type of just a cutting mat on your flimsy desk. At least place this type of cutting mat at least, and then use it as your on your leather, and then use your tool. Do not just punch through your main work surface, because it will leave dimples on your cutting board, and it will be really not good when you later use it for your cutting job. So save your main work surface and get some sacrificial cutting board to use this type of tool. And I see a lot of people, common mistake, what people are doing also as well, is very dangerous one, is they get a granite plate or even glass, and they get a sacrificial leather, and then they get their work project here, and they use to penetrate the hole through here. And that's quite dangerous, because unless you're highly skilled, you might damage your tool by penetrating both of the leather and meet the granite here. Steel is very tough. This is very brittle, which means this is harder. This is a little softer. So when this teeth hits this surface, this will also get damaged, but this one also will get damaged as well. So don't do that. So never use it naked like this to use your pricking iron tool. Never. These tools are very delicate. It's a very small teeth, and the amount of force that you're driving into an object like this, it's out of your imagination. It's really hard. The energy that concentrates into very small area like this is huge. So that's why you need to have a really good steel. Like this one is a DC 53 steel. So good steel makes good tools as well. So I'm ranting a little bit now. So let's talk about this punching board option. What you can have. So these are the most common punching board option that you could get access to, and I love my cutting edge tools, and I love my punching boards. So I like to try different stuff and new stuff, and I find that this type of new, this is from Oka factory. I will do the review. Like I said, this is wood grained. It's supposed to be beautiful. It's a punching board. It is the same material, I think, as the high density polyethylene, or it's more like a special rubber type of a punching board, and it does a little soft on your tool. So I recommend this if you have extra cash for this. I will put the link in this description where you can purchase this, or I will just do the separate review about it if I don't. So yeah, so this board I will talk about it later. So this is Oka factory punching board. It's very nice, and also it's not expensive as well. The most common option you can come across for your punching board is your IKEA cutting board. So this IKEA cutting board, I cut it into small pieces because of the reason you will see later on my channel why this has been cut, because there is a really good reason for it. Yeah, so IKEA cutting board is not bad. It is somewhat more brittle than you might find on the Amazon cutting board that I used to really promote about, which I still do, but it's cheaper. So IKEA cutting boards are a little bit cheaper, but also thinner as well. So if you have IKEA around you, or in your country, if you have IKEA, go to IKEA, and this size of cutting board really costs almost really under 10 US dollar, really. So if you are looking for really good source of punching board for your pricking iron and also the hole punch, IKEA cutting board, high density polyethylene is good. However, if you are looking for proper size, really good punching boards, I recommend these. This is high density polyethylene cutting board, which I've been using for quite a while. You see a lot of damage here. So this thing is quite thick, so it really serves you really nice work surface for your cutting job, pricking iron job, also punching job. So I highly recommend for your punching board for this one. I'll put the link in the description where you can click and purchase. The other option that you can also have is this type of very pliable PVC type of cutting mat. This is available in District Leather, and this is just your typical self-healing cutting mat. I also had to cut for some reason. You'll know later why I had to cut this. And it also has lot of good scars. I've been using this for about 5 years, and this is also good for punching board if you don't have any access to any of these. Yeah, so this is the least option you could choose. So at least go for this type of at least thin plastic mat on your work surface, so that you don't damage your tool and also your work surface. Yeah, otherwise I highly recommend this cutting board or this one. Yeah, so I will now show you how to really use your pricking iron. So this is how you prepare your leather. So I first draw my decoration line with a hot creaser. So the line outside you see is a decoration line for your final decoration. You will see much better on this left side, and you need to mark the surface where you want to do the guideline for your pricking iron. So get a type of divider, and you can just draw a guideline of what you like. There is no millimeter guidelines where you should do your stitching. It's just all about feeling where you want to sit your stitching. So I do just the same width as the decoration guideline is. So I'll just put it down and do it. So like this. So you can draw a decoration line, which is the second line over here, like this one. So this one is your stitching guidelines, yeah, and this one is your decoration line. So you need to do this line first, and then you prepare your stitching. For Japanese pricking iron, you need to hit the line right in the middle, like this. Okay, you are penetrating the line itself. Okay, so it's very easy to use because Japanese pricking iron have a really sharp tip point. So you just align your tip to your guidelines like this, and then just penetrate all the way through. Yeah, this is the easy. So that's why Japanese pricking irons are easy to use. That's what people say. So when you do the stitching, it's very easy to use. For your European pricking iron, there are 3 ways to line your stitching. So that depends also how you draw the line as well. So for European pricking iron, either you get your flat side onto left side of the line like this. Can you see it? So it sits between your decoration line and your guidelines, or you could put your stitching line to the right side of the creasing line, so that you sit your stitching on the right side. The most difficult, but which is the how I learned as well, is you need to place your teeth centered in these guidelines. So it's most difficult, I know, but it's the proper way, I think. So your guidelines are crossing the diagonal line of your pricking iron. So you're actually think of it as you're trying to just try to place these guidelines in the middle of your teeth, yeah, which is difficult. So I tend to use it to the left side of the guideline, and of course if you draw it too tight, that will be your right side. You know what I mean? If you have draw this line more tighter, like onto towards this decoration line, then it will be also to your right because it's too tight. So left and right doesn't matter. It's just all about how you align your stitching hole with depending on your guidelines. So don't think about left and right. Just think about how would you line it, yeah, on your top side or your bottom side. So your guideline is very important. So here's the setup: IKEA flimsy desk, thick cutting board, quite thick granite plate, and one more cutting board. You can also have a same thickness cutting board here, that's even better. And you can have also thicker cutting board if you want. And if you already have a solid foundation, then skip this cutting board, just go for granite plate and the cutting board like this, and then use it like this. Yeah, so I just want to come up with a cheap option so that everybody can follow. So this is a way to go. So like I explained, I'll try to penetrate the line with a sharp tip of Japanese pricking iron. So I place it, I look at it just on my side view like this, and then I raise my tool, okay? And here's the practice side of it. It's quite difficult sometimes when you start your leather craft, when you concentrate on leather too much. You're leaning towards to this side, or you're leaning towards this side, which you're making hole in a more of a diagonal way. That's not what you want unless you need to do for some reason. 90% of time you need to do the straight stitching hole right direction into the below of the leather. So do not move your tool like this. Straight as possible, as you can see. Just get it down on your knees and then just look at your tool. You'll see what you're doing wrong. Okay, and then place it with your thumb and like grab your tool properly. Then just again look at it and then raise it. And then on a very good 90 degree, use a good hammer. I'll also put this in the description. Just look at it and then just tap, yeah, and then check, yeah. This is what you want. So you don't need to have a very teeth poking out all the way that you can see. You will just see a very small teeth poking out like this, yeah, and that's what you want. So because the teeth is so smooth, it really just ejects the leather like this. So already you can see the light behind it, right? And the hole is very small. So again, that's why you need a good tool like this to make a small hole stitching. So again, like this. So you pull it out like this. If you have a smooth tool, you don't need to do any of the beeswaxing or oiling for your tool because it's so smooth because of the polishing. It just comes out right out. So this is how you do. For your French pricking iron, I'll just show you two techniques. So I'll just draw one line just for the demonstration. Yeah. for your French clamp saddle stitching, just tap it, and you will not see any of the teeth poking out the other side. Okay, just tap it. Yeah. So suppose this is a very thick Blanchard or traditional pricking iron, you will leave only sharp marks on your leather. Okay. Now, if you are using a modern pricking iron, what you can do is you can just penetrate it like you're using a Japanese pricking iron. So just penetrate it all the way through, and you see teeth coming out, and then boom, that's it. So you finish this hole on your French clamp, on this tapped hole clamp, you can finish it, or you can just penetrate all the way through like this, and then stitch it on your this type of clamp. Now, someone asked me how to do the straight penetration for the very thick leather. So that's a very good question. If your leather gets too thick, this is around 5 or 6 mil, and if you have more layer, you'll have increase in thickness, and as you tilt it little bit, even little bit, because the leather is so thick, it will create not a straight line. It will end up in a very wrong spot. So the best way to do this is just practice. So you need to start with a scrap piece of leather. Don't do it with a nice leather. Just get some scrap piece of leather and then just practice it. How to control your tool better. I work on looking down on the table. I don't look at the level, eye level. So I just control it from looking up, because I know from by now I get the feeling or how my tools are aligned, and then just hit it, and then there you go. Yeah, so that's it. So this is basically how you use your pricking iron. This is the very basic step. It's quite a lot of things go in detail for leathercraft. I know it's quite how should I say, a lot of details on a lot of things you should know and when it comes to nice leather crafting. But if you're just trying to have a little fun as a hobbyist, you don't need to go through all these necessary steps of energy savings and all these thickness, different types. You know, you can use it as any way you would like. You know, so don't be stressed if you're a hobbyist. It's a quite overkill. But if you are really trying to pursue this in a proper way, and if you're still struggling because you want to do the good work, but then somehow your work is not really presentable, then you might consider why it's wrong, and you need to investigate what things have you done wrong, and also things like that. Yeah, you can leave the comments in the comment box, and I'll try to reply as soon as possible. On the next video, I will talk about the thread thickness and the spacing relations. So a lot of guys asked what kind of thread I should use on leather, on thickness of the leather, and the spacing of the pricking iron, and the thread thickness, and also needle thickness. Thickness is also the problem as well for a lot of people. So I'll talk about it one by one. So if you subscribe to this video, and if you hit the bell button, if I upload new video, you'll get the notification, and you can watch the video when I upload new ones. So hope you guys subscribe and like this video. Until then, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys next video. Bye bye.